I do recommend you go ahead, but you will not be losing time. You'll have your okay.
Great. Welcome everybody. Here we are, Wayne, Lauren, and Catarina, to describe to you how creating an environment of resilience for practitioners throughout all the models of truth-telling, reconciliation and restorative justice are really important. It's a pleasure to see everyone present different models and ideas of restorative justice, truth-telling and reconciliation. But our question we've tried to answer is, what are we doing for the people practicing in the field? Okay, so today we will cover 4 points. We will use a real-life example from a practitioner in the field to describe the particular problem, a particular problem that she's facing in her practice. We will cover off the design process and the considerations that we need to put in place when we're thinking about delivering this resilience program. We will also describe the managing and leading to overcome compassion fatigue. You know, the problems that we all face when we practice. How will we build this program? And then we'll just look at a short model of mentoring and coaching that will mitigate practitioner harms and enhance practice.
So, Nick, I will not save my face. Oh, what are you seeing behind me? It's my routine. It's what I do every day. Listen people that bring me their terrible histories. I allow them talk. I give them a place for learning. They are victims of all kinds of crimes and with all sorts of things. But I also listen the other side, the offender. And it's also a terrible history. Most times a history of neglect, lack of love, opportunities. They are mostly black young guys raised by a grandmother. They are boys that keep school in the early years. They seem to have no plans about their future because they can't even think about the future. Yes, I listen to both, but I will not do a conference or a circle or a dialogue, and I don't have a co-facilitator. What I will offer to them is a response that will not please anyone. I will probably sentence him to a prison time, and the victim will receive at her home a copy of the sentence. I bet with you that the victim will not like the sentence. If she has a revenge feeling, she will think, oh, he did what he did for me, and that's only it. And if she doesn't have, she'll think, it doesn't will my harms. And I do it day by day. And I can't go home and let these things at work. I do not develop this capacity yet. And I don't know how to do it. Nick told us about our groups and encouraged us to think about them. Since I was a kid, I am not the kind of person that likes groups, although of course I am always inside some of them. But I really do not feel that any of them defines me, and I don't like to have the bounds of a box. So I was always the one that were around at bars, but not intimately linked with no group. Now I need a group, some kind of support. But I don't find it because I can't find persons that are living the same situation. If I talk with my colleagues that are doing the same job, they say me, but why are you leading hearings like this? Why are you letting them talk so much about things that are not important for the trial? And what do you get with it? And people that are thinking with see me as the one that underpins the punitive system. The conclusion is that no one of the groups supports me. I don't have the framework to lack these feelings, these sorrows at work, and so I carry them with me.
So my part in this presentation is to discuss TRC process and value-based considerations. But I think for building resilience into the organization and the process that we may be involved in. But first, I think I wanted to talk a little bit about empathy. And when she tells that story, I just feel like hugging her. And all the that come up in our conversations or when we hear things, those are empathy. So I think that's really a key understanding that we all have, as Nick has mentioned, we all have in this room really high emotional intelligence. And empathy is part of who we are, and it's part of why we do this work. And I think understanding that and understanding that the people who come to us to share the work, and perhaps the people that we supervise and manage, are all going to be very empathetic people, kind of helps us see where we are in an organizational framework. So this is from actually a nursing scholar. She identified 4 qualities of empathy. The first is perspective taking, so seeing what others are seeing, which I think is the are are indicative that we're sharing a perspective. Staying out of judgment, which, we talk about doing our own work. Judgment comes into play often, but I think we can also suspend that judgment for a while. Recognizing emotion in others, so being quick to understand body language, vocal indicators of trauma, of anger, of emotion. Those are things that we recognize and people that we work with recognize. And then communicating that emotion to other people. So sometimes we're put in a mediation or interpretation piece where we're actually explaining a little bit about what's happening, or we're explaining to somebody else maybe what we see in that situation or in that person. So empathy is feeling with others, and I have felt that many times this week. Sumina, in our circle process, when the tears came, I felt that, and I think we all do that. I wanted to give just a quick tool here. How many people have seen this? This is wonderful. This is Brene Brown. She is a researcher. She did a TED Talk, and this is actually a video. It's about 3 minutes. I'm not going to show it, but it's a very good tool for you to use. It explains what empathy is and what sympathy is. And you can actually turn off the language and just play it, and it gives a good visual picture. So there's 2 characters. There's a bear, and there's a fox. And the fox is feeling down, and they're in the woods. The fox goes into the hole, and she says, "I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed." So the bear, you can see the ladder to the left. The bear makes a ladder, or finds a ladder, goes down the ladder. He says, in between the rungs, he says, "I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone." So this is empathy. Just sharing that space, coming into the space. Then he says, "Hey," and he turns on the light. All right, so it's light down in the hole. Now this is quite funny in the film. Yeah. There's a goat that comes along up above, and the goat sticks his head in the hole and says, "Hey, how you doing down there? You want a sandwich?" So that's sympathy, right? Sympathy is not coming down into that space. Or if you do come down into the space, you are not connecting and sharing. You're maybe judging. All right, so there's the goat. Here's what the bear does. So this is empathy. This is what we do for most of the time, I would say. We're pretty good at this. And this is why this is a challenge for us in this work. That we see the fox is depressed. We are able to visualize that same feeling. I'm not saying we can get it right on, right? I have to say, there was a moment when Rashawn was talking about something and he used a curse word. And he was angry, and I could feel that. Okay, so, but I don't have the same experience, but I can feel it. So the bear's able to see, able to share. There's the two depressing clouds coming together, and then we have a connection. Okay. This is why it's tough to, this is tough work. It really is. And the reason why is because we feel empathy. So I want to take that idea of visualizing people like us working with people who are like us, doing the same kind of job, and then in the context of working with hurt, harmed people. So you can see the challenge. If you bring an organizational understanding of trauma and resilience to this, these first two are policy and sort of protocol oriented, that you undergird your organization with these, you have a commitment to that. There's a training aspect of this. You can find this information online. This is not anything new here. Our STAR training here offers this. Give a little plug.
Yay.
I think it's important to have clear job responsibilities and boundaries. And this is, I will say, this is my interjection, and this is my thought into this. I borrowed this other, but that's mine. I think it's very important to have a clear idea of what you do, and then when you hand the next piece off to the next person. A plan, and then these next three are all about creating a plan for crises that you're constantly evaluating yourself and others. If there's a space that's set aside, and Wayne will talk about that, and that there's feedback and there's continual outreach efforts. So Ilaria is going to talk about compassion. Oh, here's my quick tool. Instead of, this is my, yeah, so, sorry. Just to give you another tool here, instead of this, we want this. So instead of the man who writes the 14-page letter and is overwhelmed and leaves, what do we want? We want a healthy, sustainable environment, an employee who will continually give, who communicates before the 14-page letter comes out. What's our plan for that? So Ilaria is going to talk about this aspect, and then Wayne will contribute a piece of that can give us some.
Okay, compassion fatigue. What it is? There are several definitions around, and it is a relatively new concept, at least as it is called. The concept is bigger, but with this name came out like 20 years ago. It is the result of the emotional exposure to work with traumatized people. And Dr. Charles, I hope to pronounce his name like Finkley, is the director of the Tulane, I guess, Traumatology, thank you, Traumatology Institutes in Florida, New Orleans, thank you. And he, in '95, he wrote a book called Compassion Fatigue Toward a New Understanding of the Cost of Caring. And he doesn't give a specific definition, but he describes in this way. I'm going to read the compassion fatigue. We have not been directly exposed to the trauma scene, but we hear the story told with such intensity, or we hear similar stories so often, or we have the gift and curse of extreme empathy, and we suffer. We feel the feelings of our clients. We experience their fears. We dream their dreams. Eventually, we lose a certain spark of optimism, humor, and hope. We tire. We aren't sick, but we aren't ourselves. Sound familiar to anybody? Okay. So, another author, Francois Mathieu, he wrote a compassionate fatigue workbook. He said that between 40 and 85% of people who work in caring of others, they get a certain degree of compassionate fatigue at a certain point in their lives. There are personal factors like trauma history or a certain level of empathy, but it happens to many, many people. How to recognize it? There are so many signs: physical, emotional, behavioral. I'm just going to give you some of them. There is physical and emotional exhaustion, anger and irritability, stability, the pronoun, the accent I don't know where it goes. That word. Okay. An exaggerated sense of responsibility. I cannot live. If I go away, nobody is going to take care. An impaired ability to make decisions. Cynicism and embitterment. I found myself in this. Resentment. An increased sense of vulnerability. Accents today. Vulnerability. Okay. And a diminished sense of enjoyment and a loss of hope. Now, we can recognize these signs in ourselves and also in the people that with whom we work. So if we are an organization that want to be trauma informed, like the commissions or many of the organizations we work with, we have to create a culture in our organization to make it possible. And there are several ways. The first one is to offer a physical and emotional safe space to the person, and to raise awareness, trauma awareness, in the culture of the organization. Why trauma happened, or the start thing that we know. And then the organization can support the person, everybody. It is paid leaves, extended vacations, extending time of vacation, and health insurance that includes also access to mental health, a manageable caseload, so people are not overwhelmed, mentoring, as Wayne said, and a supportive supervision, peer support, and then trauma training, so they can recognize signs of trauma in themselves and in others, and it's called trauma responsiveness. It is like how the organization responds to traumatized employees.
Okay, so what we've heard today is that there is emotional labour in the work that we do. Practitioners in the field, you experience similar harms than the harms felt by victims and offenders in the work that we do. Our intervention theory of change says that when practitioners engage in mentoring and coaching, peer support, then they will deliver better outcomes for the people they're serving, and they will stay healthier and safer in themselves. The benefit of all those things is that we won't therefore experience as much emotional harm, at least we will deal with them better. We won't experience as much burnout as I see in the field amongst my colleagues, and so there'll be less turnover of people changing jobs. I can't deal with it anymore, I'm going to do something else. So the main attributes of our theory of change is that it is independent of the... so there's two ways you can provide mentoring and coaching. One is on a regular basis, so it'll be subject to an agreement between the coach and the practitioner, and it could be individual based, or it could be circle process based amongst a number of practitioners. Coaching and mentoring can also be offered ad hoc, which is one-on-one and delivered as the practitioner feels that there's an emerging issue. Something really bad has happened today, I really need to talk to someone about it. I've put there that it can be done remotely. I like face-to-face practice, but one of my mentors, I communicate simply by phone, and that can be done too. So the main attributes of theory of change is that it would be the people doing this would be independent from the restorative justice, truth-telling reconciliation process. It would be confidential. There would be a sharing of issues and a setting of goals, and we'd be working towards helping you strengthen the ability and confidence you have in dealing with the issues that you're facing. When we practice this with you, it will be modelling a practice style and practice values for you to continue. we will accept questions. Thank you.
All right, feedback, questions, comments?
Yeah, I have a question about the coaching and mentoring. Is there a preventive aspect, or is it, or do you do it after the practitioner has?
Yeah, that's a good
shown?
question. Ideally, this is something that is set up right at the beginning of the truth-telling, reconciliation and restorative justice process. So as the people engaged in this process in a place start putting it together, they build this in straight away. So we might say, well, you know, you're going to be involved in this process to help the community.
Okay.
Who's helping you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. You started, or Catarina started with your question. So I was wondering if you got to some kind of suggestions for Catarina.
Suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, there was a really concrete, I think, question as well. So, like you said, in your case, you don't have people nearby among your colleagues who can maybe be a peer or a mentor or a coach. So what could be possible?
Well, I think we've each talked about what's available to us, and I'm spoiled for choice. I practice in a number of things at home, and I have 3 different mentors. One of them I must see regularly because of the contract I have with an organisation I work for. But in my colleagues, I know that this is a new subject, and so, you know, I think it's incumbent on us to train, be available to one another, and also to be training to become more proficient at mentoring.
I was just going to add, I know as soon as I met Catarina, I said, have you met Isabel Lima? And some of you might have experienced that kind of networking here.
Yeah.
Isabel Lima is a retired judge who lives in Brazil, who is working on restorative justice. And she spent time here with the FBI and is coming back hosting with the Zare Institute. I feel like I'm marketing here.
No.
Yeah.
You know, this is really neat. It's a lot of Brazilian practitioners coming here and speaking in Portuguese, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
And ignoring
Yeah.
the American
Right.
English, but networking.
Yeah.
So she has a wonderful resource, and that's one of the things I've heard as somebody who's covered SPI summer after summer, is the networking is really valuable. And the attitude of can you help, which is what I've heard. She has come here seeking help, so she's advocating for herself, which is a really positive positive attribute. But the networking, the reaching out is key. But that's an excellent question. You're right, we left her hanging. We did not solve her problem.
Corina, I will be in contact with Wayne.
Face to face.
Marketing's working.
Let me just say, even on the field level, I won't go into detail, but when I was having severe nightmares after coming back from Sierra Leone, you know, I realized I had to pause before I went back again. And although my wife is a fantastic listener and my best friend and companion, she couldn't carry all of that either. We talked a lot, but she was also carrying stories of rape and of women and children. She was working in a crisis support center, so I couldn't rely on her completely. So really critical to have people who understand the work, number one, who can hear you without judgment, but also just receive it without having to insert their story, and then can walk with you, you know. And so I had to find those. They were professionals as well as church folk who could listen to me and give me the time and absorb it without being traumatized too much themselves, and that's critical.
I'm married to a newly installed Reiki master teacher that uses Reiki as a discipline of being able to go into a situation and help people cleanse. But the process of when she starts, the importance of preparing herself for that kind of trauma situation, and then to be able to develop a discipline to let go of that after you've heard it with some intentional work. So and I know we have some people here that are participating in SPI that are much more deeper than I'm just now getting into it, but that's another option that I think is available to us that is not explored as frequently, so.
Any last questions, comments?
Thank you. That was excellent.
Can you share this PowerPoint with us?
Maybe the other PowerPoints.
In fact, if everyone could send their PowerPoints to us, I'll upload them onto Moodle, or we'll upload them onto Moodle. Yeah. If you're willing, yes. Thank you.
Good job.